Hiya, it's Carly from Kip McGrath in Carlisle, and today we are looking at some time problems. So they can come up in lots of different ways. So they might be presented with some kind of timetable, or they might be presented with the idea of a film lasting a certain length of time and trying to work out what time it would finish. Or even sometimes we get things like you're cooking a chicken, it takes this much per kilo, how long would it take, and then what time would you finish if you started at this time? So there's all kinds of different problems that might come up. But the key thing that children need to be reminded of is that they can't do what they would normally do. So a lot of the time they automatically try and add or subtract to work things out, but obviously that doesn't work because adding and subtraction relies on the fact that we add up to 100, whereas obviously with time we're only dealing with 60. And so it doesn't work in the usual way. So I tend to encourage them to do some kind of number line or some kind of jotted notes, working to each hour and from there. And this is probably what we would do as adults naturally in our heads, but sometimes it's hard to explain that to the children. So, for example, if they were presented with a timetable, the first thing we need to get them used to is to understand what it's trying to show us. So sometimes they'll go along the way and sometimes they will go down the way. So because our places go down the way, this is the time the train would pick up, and going down here is the time it would arrive at each location, and that's the time it gets to its final destination. But as I said, sometimes they go along the way, so it's good to get them used to practical methods, so getting out an actual train timetable, an actual bus timetable, having a little look, trying to plan a journey with them, trying to plan some flights, anything like that, planning a little holiday where they have to look at bus timetables, train timetables, all those sort of things, is a practical way to get them used to seeing these things. So the kind of question that they might get on here is, if I need to be in Lancaster by 10:30, which train would I have to catch from Carlisle? So we look at the Lancaster, this one would get me there too late, so I'm going to have to get this one, which would set off at this time. So that's one sort of question. But you might also get, more commonly, especially with the older ones, a question that asks, how long does the train take from X to X? So how long does the train take from the 8:52 train, because trains do vary, and that's something else we could discuss with them, because not all trains take the same amount of time between two locations. Okay, so you might say, okay, how long does the 8:52 train from Carlisle take to arrive in Preston? So I would encourage them to underline the Carlisle time and the Preston time so that they've got those clear. And then we're going to start on the Carlisle time. So I'm going to show you two ways. We could look at a number line where I would write down the start time here, and I would be saying to them, okay, remember 60 minutes an hour. So how many minutes to get to the next hour, which is going to be 9 o'clock? If it's only 60, so what do I add to 52 to get to 60? Well, I add 8 minutes. Okay, and that gets me to 9 o'clock. And then at that point, they can count up in hours. So we're going to 10 now, so we're at 9, so 10 is going to be a full hour. So 1 hour. We might encourage them to write on here hours and minutes so they don't get confused, and then 10 o'clock. Okay, and then we might say, right, okay, we're at 10 o'clock, we're going to 10:35. How many more minutes? So this one should be easier. The only one that is really the difficult one is this first one. So how many minutes is 35 minutes? And at that point, we can get them to add up the two lots of minutes. So we can add up 35 and 8, and we get, carry the 1, 43 minutes. Remind them of the hour, so we've got 1 hour 43. Sometimes the question might be a bit tricky, and it might say in minutes, okay? So then we would say to them, well, how many minutes is in that hour? Well, it's 60, so I would just add on 60 to get me 103 minutes. So it very much depends on what the question is asking them. That's one way of setting it out. When they get more confident, they don't actually need to draw the number line, and certainly as adults, we would probably just hold this information in our head or jot it down. So if we were to go this time for the other train, the 9:37, and this time we're going all the way to London. Okay, so at this point, we would say to them, okay, we're getting to the next hour, to 10 o'clock, so how many minutes? Now, they might do it as 3 minutes to get to 40 and another 20, or they might just do the full 23 in a chunk. It doesn't really matter. But this time I'm just jotting down the numbers as I go rather than writing out the sort of long detailed number line. So I'm now at 10 o'clock, from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, 1. So I've got another 3 hours and then a 50. And at that point, I might add them up. 50 and 20 is 70, add 3, 73. Spotting at that point that 73 is more than an hour. So I can take out 1 full hour and leave 13 minutes. 1 hour 13 plus my 3 hours from before gives me 4 hours 13 minutes. Okay, that's just a few different ways of jotting it down. So now we're going to move on to our second type of problem where you're given sort of a concept. So this time there's a film, and your film lasts 1 hour and 37 minutes, and we're not in a cinema, we're at home. So we get a break of 12 minutes to pop to the toilet, get some snacks, get a drink, whatever it is. And we say to them, we're going to start watching the film at 17:40. Will we be finished by bedtime, which is whatever time you want to pick, or even just what time will we be finished? Okay, so 1 hour 37 and a break of 12 minutes. First thing I would say is we need to work out the total length of time that all of this is happening. So I would encourage them to add this up. So I've got 37 minutes and I've got 12 minutes. So I would say let's add up our minutes first. So 37 add 12. 9 and 4, so 49 minutes. Doesn't take me past the hour because it's not over 60, so that's great. So we know in total it's 1 hour 49. Now, this is where they would desperately want to add that on. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to work. So what we're going to have to look at is 17:40, add 1 hour. So plus 1 hour takes me to 18:40. If I was to add on 20 of the 49 minutes, that would get me to 7 o'clock or 1900. And again, this is a good point that you could discuss with them. How do we know the difference between 24-hour and 12-hour time? Because a lot of children struggle with that. And the key thing would be saying to them, okay, take away 12 or add 12. So if I take away 12 from that, I get 5. No, I don't. I get 7, so 7 o'clock, okay? So encouraging them to take away their 12 to get the time. So that's 7 o'clock at night, all right? And as adults, again, you get comfortable with this and don't understand why they struggle, but lots of practice with taking away 12 or adding 12 will really help there. So we've added an hour 20 minutes and we've got to 7 o'clock, okay? And then we'll go back over here. So what have we got left? If we've used 20 of those, so 49, take away 20, we've got 29 minutes left. So we've got to add another 29 on. That's going to get us to 19:29. And that's what time the film would finish. And that would be their answer. Okay, so that's a few different ways of setting out different time problems. If you've got any questions or comments, just pop them in the comments below. And if you've got any requests, give us a shout. Thanks.